This is going to be fun. Please believe me. Hear me now, believe me later. All right, we're going to continue on with the Dealing with Healing series. Now, this is how this came to be. Yeah, that's right. We got a little visual aid for this one here. Check out Woodsy the Owl. And this is going to be very timely and right on time. This was directly, and you'll see how that plays a part in a second. Please believe it. This was directly related to continuing our series about dealing with healing. And it came from thoughts that the Most High gave me concerning protection from spells and chants. Now, I heard a young brother making the cadences that goes along with Drake's song. Really, it's Migos' song featuring Drake, and of course, Drake took it over to the level that a lot of people thought it was Drake's song. And back home in Detroit on the radio, you never hear the version without Drake. And of course, now we know there's a remix with Drake and Tyga and somebody else on it. Y'all know who I'm talking about. But anyway, so I was hearing this cadence in Meek Mill. How could I forget Meek Mill? I was hearing this cadence, and I was trying to pick up on where have I heard that? Where have I heard that? It was the pattern, that you hear in Versace, the song that a lot of people are familiar with because it's so hypnotic that once you hear it, it's hard to forget it. So, as I thought about it, and I immediately felt in my spirit, well, there's something in that pattern that's hypnotic. It's more than just a creative pattern. And as a former rhyme writer, years and years of rhyme writing, you pick up on things like that, and then years and years of recording. I noticed delivery and things of that nature. And I remember thinking when I first heard the song, because it's not new, it's been out for a minute. When I first heard it, and I believe it was Warm when I first heard it, I was thinking to myself, wow, this is really catchy. And though I'm not a fan of Drake, especially because I don't care much for MCs who don't write their own rhymes, and that was the word from the underground, was that was true, that he wasn't really writing his own rhymes. So I didn't really have much respect for him. But I remember even back when I was in Atlanta in April, a young brother was pointing out to me the verbal dexterity that he's picked up on all of a sudden, and I just think that it had to do with ghostwriters. But so the song kind of caught me by surprise when I first heard it. I was like, oh wow, okay, Drake got something catchy out, and I even had it downloaded to my phone. Now keep in mind, this is with me knowing what I know about the songwriter's secret and all of that. I did keep a catalog of songs, and I still do have a catalog of songs for reference point, and so I made the excuse to myself that, well, that's what I was putting it in there for. But I'm gonna tell you, really, I thought it was catchy, and I was starting to like the dang old song. And the backstory, or the lie that they put along with the song, the implication is that, well, they was just big upping high fashion. And you like to think that things are that innocent, when in reality we're going to show you exactly how deep that thing really is about. And we forgot to look up the Drake and Mandrake thing, but we forgot to add a couple things to this, but this is still going to be great for you, please believe it. So we're going to look at the real occult depths behind the song Versace, which some would like to think it's just innocently and simply enough something about a high fashion design. And of course we remember that a lot of us in the hood didn't know what Versace was. And I'm talking about, I know some big ballers from the Motown, and people wasn't messing with Versace until Pac. It was Tupac that brought Versace to a lot of our attention. And if you really understand Tupac's knowledge base, he knew a lot about the occult, and he went and stayed with Gianni Versace for some time. Their deaths was relatively near one another. But as I heard the young man doing the cadence of the song, and I asked him, was that what he was doing? And he was like, yeah. I don't know if he was even saying the actual words, but he was following that cadence. It was something in the cadence that I found very hypnotic. And so it kind of stayed on my mind, and it helped me to come up with the next lesson which is going to continue what we've been talking about in the dealing with healing. But this was so surprising to me, the way that the Most High began to put these pieces of the puzzle together. And I said, well, you know what? I need to do one just strictly on this. And here we go, 5 minutes in, and we're just about to begin. But was it purposeful or inadvertent? Okay, is it conscious or subconscious? Why is it so catchy? It doesn't matter if it was purposeful or inadvertent that the song is so catchy, and that the cadence and the things surrounding the song and Versace himself that I'm going to show and prove actually have their roots in the occult. And just bring that up a little bit to get a little bit more light on the paper. Okay, we know that he was hung on a tree. Okay, but again, so why is it so catchy? The hypnotic spell, the hypnotic synthesized beat. As a guy that was somewhat versed in making beats, I thought the beat was awful funny bunny, and I thought that it was a little cheesy. And even for down south beats, which sometimes can be that way. Timbaland was from down south, technically. Virginia's from the south, in the south, and also Little John I thought was very masterful at a particular style of production. So I'm not signifying that down south does not have a advanced style of production among the styles down there. But okay, Mandrake is also called Satan's apple. Excellent. Okay, but let's look at some things, quite a few things as a matter of fact, surrounding Drake that you haven't heard already. There's a lot of things already up about Drake. I'm not going to go back down memory lane. There's lots of great researchers and truthers who have broken it down to the very last compound. But what we will look into a little bit had to do with my man Woodsy Owl. Who? Not you, buddy. And we're going to look at Migos. That's what really got me. I said, now what does that mean? Strap in. Okay. How do I even begin? Well, we know Drake, which made me think about a character from the comics too, named Mandrake, who was named after a particular root, a root which is called, or a herb, excuse me, which is called also Satan's apple. Okay, I thought about why his father would give him the middle name, assuming it was his father, Drake. That's his middle name. His name is Aubrey Graham, and his middle name is Drake. His father was a drummer in the music business. Might tell you how he ended up at Disney. Remember in the other videos when we talk about the sacrifice of celebrity children, he was a celebrity child, and I doubt if he spent time writing rhymes and doing the things that we do that make us great lyricists, studying to that degree and battling with people and those things that really sharpen your liquid swords. But his father was the drummer for Jerry Lee Lewis, whose big song was Goodness Gracious Great Balls of Fire. So we're going back to the songwriter's secret, just a little taste. That's not enough for you. Well, his dad was from Memphis, which we know is named after a city in Egypt, the land of witchcraft, and especially of African-based witchcraft, and the Egyptian mind control, and a center for mind control in Tennessee, they say, right there by Nashville. And Nash has to do with another name of Satan. And Nashville and Memphis are both directly connected to the mind control programs that Kathy O'Brien spoke of in her book, Transformation of America. And also one reason why the country music genre is so popular and powerful. They say that Project Umbrella took special care with two forms of music, both aimed at the huddled masses and the poor. One was country, aimed at quote-unquote po white, and one was hip-hop, aimed at quote-unquote po black. So we have also in Drake, we have a mixture of the two cultures brought together in one, and that of course has to do with the New World Order and the New World Order's declassification of of nationality. Okay, Drake and Mandrake. Now, he claims to hail from Toronto, which we know is a big Illuminati city in Canada. What up, though, Benny Blanco? And my other viewers in Canada, right across the river there. Well, I thought about the basketball team. The Canadian basketball team called the Toronto team. In fact, it's called the Raptors. And out of all of the team names, I always thought that was an extra ill name and a direct connection to reptilian involvement in sports. One reason why you can jump out the gym. Let's go there. Now, of course, the Raptors have a connection to Detroit. Isaiah Thomas, the number 11 for Illuminated, was the man for the Detroit Pistons for many, many years, and he ended up becoming the head of the Raptor team for a little while. And then, obviously, he wasn't complicit in everything he needed to be. I started to say should have been, but he needed to be in order to stay in that role. And he was removed with some controversy behind it at that. You guys know the story of that. Well, Drake has come from the Disney realm. Parents usually give their children as a living sacrifice to Disney. That's how they end up there. Billy Ray Cyrus gave his daughter up to the Disney mind control leg of the program. Miley Cyrus, who we know played Hannah Montana, and Hannah is one of those forward, backward, Project Janus duality words, names, if you will. Also a Hebrew name on top of that. Okay, his mom, Drake's mom, was Sandy Graham. She was an educator, is what they say. Okay, you want to be careful. The Board of Education produces a lot of individuals who, by and large, would be sorors or brothers that belong to fraternities, Masons or Eastern Stars. Because in order to be an educator, 9 times out of 10, you come from some university or collegiate background. You come from academia. And within the annals of academia, we know there is the prerequisite, although it's not expressly stated to be so, that you belong. And that you belong to one of these entities, most commonly. The Eastern Star for women and the Masons for men. And so we find that connection. So we find in his parents 2 definite Illuminati connections. Look at the symbol for the Board of Education. We're talking about the tree of knowledge of good and evil, the very tree that people assume an apple was taken from, but the very tree that's described in the book of Genesis when the serpent or the whisperer makes the great lie before Eve, and of course causes the fall of man because of it. So the fall of man and his knowledge is intimately connected. So let's move on again. So we also have brothers and sisters who have made great documentaries about Drake and Jay-Z and the rest of them, and they have connected Drake to a Zionist bloodline. Well, let's deal more with the owl medallion. Let's add on to what's already been said. The owl medallion, and that's one of the reasons why I got my man Woodsy Wood here, it's your owl, which we threw with. Okay, we threw with it. That's all I had to do with it. Just a little visual. The owl medallion. Very interesting, relating to Kanye's hawk medallion. Both of these marquee top-level MCs wear medallions that are directly related to pagan entities. Kanye's, of course, is Heru. And let's talk a little bit about Drake's. This is going to be fun. Drake's, you know, his parents, they just wanted to be successful. You know, at first Drake sounded just like Wayne at first, but the LP that really took him to the highest level, took him to that next level of success and fame, which he cried out for in his song. He just wanted to be successful. I remember hearing that song and having people misconstrue it and feeling like, oh, well, I just want to be successful too, and everybody identifying with it. But I knew that it was his cry out to the Illuminati, let me in, let me in. Not about a hair on my chinny chin chin. So in 2011, he releases Take Care. Now, dig this. You can relate the owl imagery in Medallion, and ironically on Wikipedia, the picture that I saw when I looked him up just to get some general information about him. Of course, I went above and beyond Wikipedia. Don't rely on Wikipedia, because Wikipedia is something that people contribute to, and people can be wrong. Of course, we get all information from people, but anybody, I could put something up there and amend what's said. People assume that because every day people are checking Wikipedia, that there's some sort of check and balance on the authenticity of the information, and that's not true. But certain things, of course, you can use Wikipedia to glean certain information on how to go to the next level and research it. So I was looking up some basic stuff, lightweight jamming, and so I found out the names of some of his titles and whatnot, because I remember hearing them on the radio, being in cars with people and hearing them on the radio, and because I'm not a radio listener myself, and I always tend to play the music I choose to play, not the music that somebody want to brainwash me with. But I would hear people oftentimes play Drake's music, and I noticed he was much more subtle than any of the other beasts of the field. He had a more subtle style about himself, and so it didn't irritate me as much as some of the others could. But the album Take Care, it really made me question, and I gave an internal question to the Most High as I scanned Wikipedia, looking at the titles of singles and releases. I was like, okay, so where's the Illuminati connection? Pardon me. In some cases, it was more obvious than others. But in the case of Take Care, this is the stream of consciousness I went down through. So I started with Take Care. Then with Take Care, how could you take anything negative out of that? And blah, blah, blah. Y'all, I don't jump the gun. I really don't. I think with linear logic and Eurocentric rationale first and foremost. Then I let my Afrocentric feelers come out. And I thought, well, on the surface, what's wrong with saying Take Care? The owl imagery and the medallion jumped out at me as I thought about it. And I thought about the cremation of care. And I said, well, now, maybe that's a stretch. But, of course, we know that the owl is a symbol of the homoerotic occult club, the Bohemian Grove, who performed the cremation of care ceremony beneath a giant owl, which they say is Moloch. Now, Alex Jones got his claim to fame in the Truther movement from the 9/11 Truth movement primarily, but secondarily, he got a lot of underground cred because he said that he snuck in. And if you see the exchange between him and the former presidential speechwriter about how did he get in, his name is on the tip of my tongue, but they have an exchange where the guy asks him, the guy tells him, what you do is ambush journalism, and I disrespect you for that. I disrespect you for that. And Alex Jones is playing the role of the antagonizer to the guy, who's a bigwig guy. He's always on CNN, helping with commentary on there. And Alex Jones shows the, I think it was from the Washington Post, the quotes from this guy, David Gergen, I believe is his name, from this guy, where he says that, oh no, I don't involve myself in those wild, crazy rituals or whatnot in the Bohemian Grove. And so Alex Jones confronts him somewhere on the street. He catches him somewhere in Washington, and he confronts him, supposedly. But it's all staged, I believe now, believing that Alex Jones is a agent provocateur and controlled opposition, especially because of the testimonies of some real underground truthers from the Texas area who outed Alex Jones really and truly, and showed and proved that he was the agent provocateur. They showed him being provocative and provoking stuff at their rallies and whatnot. and no, absolutely no excuse for it other than to be an agent provocateur. So if you type that in YouTube, you should find those videos. Alex Jones, agent provocateur, and unless they've been removed because the powers that be want us to still believe that Alex is 100, unless they've been removed, you'll find it up there. But anyway, Alex Jones made his underground credibility stick by telling us that he snuck into the Bohemian Grove when him and David Gergen is going back and forth. David Gergen asked him flat out, which makes me kind of wonder, was it staged? He asked him flat out, he said, did you have an agreement when you went in there? Did you have an agreement? And Alex Jones said, like, kind of airheadedly, yeah. And the guy was like, and so you broke that agreement? He said, I disrespect you for that. And so on and so forth. So regardless, we know from the Bohemian Grove's own admissions, their own promotional paperwork, that people that have worked there have snuck out, and that they themselves have let out in the press, that they do indeed do a ceremony called the cremation of care to a giant 2-3-story owl in which there's a fire, and they lay an effigy, that means a dummy supposedly, of a baby on a river raft, and they roll it down the river and burn it inside the owl. Now, some say that it's an effigy, some say that that's a lie. I'm starting to say something else. Lord help me. But the owl, they say, is Moloch. So you see this owl imagery oftentimes on Drake. And again, God made the owl. If the fallen angels made the owl, God made the fallen angels. There's nothing that the devil created. That's why he's not a creator. He's an imitator, a beat biter, dope style taker. Tell him to his face he ain't nothing but a faker. Now his song, The Motto, Drake's song, The Motto, popularized the Crowleyan catchphrase, YOLO, you only live once, which is a way of saying, so do what you want to do now. Do what you want to do, and do as thou wilt. Same thing. It's just do as thou wilt in disguise. It's not unlike the popular term that people say, do you? I'm doing me. And, of course, we talked about Digital Underground, their duality, and the term, do what you like. Heavyweight jamming. All right, now, Drake comes from a Disney TV show called Degrassi, Degrassi. I misspelled it, but it just goes to show you how the Holy Ghost be at work. I misspelled it, the Grassi. Now somebody has the homework of giving the meaning of that. I'm sure that's Simple Simon stuff. Give me the meaning of that. What does it mean? It looks to be a word of Latin origin, perhaps Spanish, because you find great similarity between Spanish, French, and Italian. They are all rooted in Latin, although you could tend to call Spanish-speaking people Latin, and that's a bit of a misnomer. In reality, Latin is the language of ancient Rome, the language of Rome. They call it a dead language today. But if you watched Harry Potter, as dead as the language is, they sure enough had a plenty of it in there. All throughout Harry Potter, you hear spells and incantations done in Latin that's supposed to be a dead language. So who resurrected it for the movie? Was it that witch? What's her name? J.R. Crowlin? She is a witch. Please believe it. Hear me now, believe me later. Okay. So Aubrey, he's an actor, not a rapper. He can act like a rapper. But, you know, we're not taking any special pride in rap anymore like we used to. But, again, he has this history directly relating him to mind control and to the Disney mind control program. He was on a Disney mind control program. Okay, so we find him also having a beef with Common, who we know has also been indoctrinated into the Illuminati. I know a manager who brought to my attention when Common's sacrifices came up. Now, some people will also talk about Detroit native and contemporary of mine, Jay Dilla, being one of his sacrifices. And we heard a lot of inside stories about interactions between Dilla and Common in the last days of Dilla's life. And indeed, Common was taking care of Jay Dilla uh, right up until the time that he was hospitalized to his deathbed. And Common got the, with the Jay-Z situation and Beyonce. And again, some things you'll never read. You can hear me now, believe me later. Hopefully the spirit in you can tell you the same thing that the spirit in me tell me. And that's how we know we're one with the spirit. It says, test the spirit by the spirit. What spirit? The Holy Spirit. Jeremiah 33:3. So I always felt like Jigga, looking like a Camel cigarette camel, getting with Beyonce, who was fine, was one of his Masonic requests. When you reach that level in the Illuminati, you can make those types of requests. Some guys have fantasies like that. And you got to think now. You may think, oh, that's awful shallow. That's how you get in. That's how you're picked or tapped, they say, for the 33rd degree. You have to exhibit a certain willingness to be shallow, to be a tool, and to be able to exchange your, that's what I'm looking for. Some people are willing to give up their integrity for a fine woman or for the hottest cars. It sounds really far-fetched, and that's why it's hard to even bring my mind to bear that. But it is indeed true. And I got that comment, although, I'm sure, I've heard a lot of ladies say that he's a nice-looking guy. But I just believe that because everyone was after Serena the way that they was, that, I've heard some people say it, that, he wanted Serena. And maybe she didn't think he was so nice-looking. But supposedly something happened between Serena, Common, and Drake surrounding being at the casinos, which are also places for mind control programming, believe it or not. They've got 3 of them in Detroit. They're supposed to be so poor. Okay. All right, so now let's get down to the nitty-gritty. So I looked at the word, the name of the group that he's with for the song, Versace. It's an unknown group. I mean, unknown to me and the other hip-hoppers and purists that I knew, and unknown to all of the casual radio listeners that I knew. People didn't say that the song was by Migos. People would say the song was by Drake. In reality, the song was by Migos. Now, let's look at some things. When you look at Migos or Migo, the first thing that jumps into your mind should be the Spanish word for friend, amigo, which I immediately related to a friend being someone you're familiar with or your fam. Sometimes we call friends fam. And of course we know that a common name for a demon spirit, an ancestral demon spirit especially, but not always, it's called a familiar. Spirit is just familiar with you. They'll call it familiar as well. But I said, oh wow, there's a relationship there already off rip to something demonic. Now this is how it built its way up for me. So I said, okay, the familiar. Interesting. Or a friend or amigo. Some children are first oppressed by demonic entities and extra-dimensional beings, the unseen, unclean, by having imaginary friends. And I once knew of a sister who was telling me about her experiences with a red, hairy being that she called her friend Harry. And very intelligent sister, as a matter of fact. The very same one I talked about in one of the last videos we went down to the Dr. York land in. And she expressed to me how real this being was to her. How even as she talked about it, she could tell me about its details as if it were still there. But of course, she said the older she got and the more that the adults told her it wasn't there, the less she was able to see it. And I've had similar experiences myself, as I believe that many of us have. And, we want to ask the Most High to break every chain, every childhood bond that was made with anything demonic. That might have came from things that we played with watching Sesame Street. Believe it or not. You see a lot of little funny beings on Sesame Street. Do you know what Jim Henson was into? No, you don't. But you sit your children in front of it. Sesame Street. Sesame Street was all about demonic beings and otherworldly beings, extra-dimensional entities, and how children can see them. And that's one reason why children are so gravitate so and are so geek and happy when you put on Sesame Street. They don't have to teach that. It's interesting when you don't have to teach a child something. That means that there's something inherent 9 times out of 10 in the something, or in the creators of the something. They understand something that the child inherently knows, and they're playing off of that. Elmo, you just can't tell me, is not based off of some particular type of demon. And also Cookie Monster, perhaps the demon that leads to gluttony later on in life. But I digress. So I said, well, let me see if my knowledge is effective. Who said that? Ice Cube. So I said, Migo. Well, if I'm feeling like that's a friend or a familiar, I said I should find something. I should find something if I look it up. Migos, again, we know that's really Latin, not simply Spanish like amigos, which could be as in one friend, or as in asexual, not sexual. Amigos, not a friend. We ain't going too hard. Okay, so Latin, we know it comes from the language of Rome, and all that the Romans knew, they learned from the Grecians. So it relates back to Greek. And when I first saw the word, that was my first thought. I thought about Biblos, which is a Greek restaurant in Detroit, and of course you know the meaning of that. And then I thought about Theos, my name, God in Greek. And so a little bit of research can pay off a lot. So I found out that amigo is the name of a creature made up by the early 19th century fictionist H.P. Lovecraft. Now H.P. Lovecraft, he is no joke. He is a heavyweight jammer. Please believe it. He was they say a student or a contemporary of Crowley, and of the same things that Crowley studied. They linked them to the same secret societies. At that time, the dominant society in the early 19th century would have been the Golden Dawn. But there was a lot of spiritism. Believe it or not, in the late 1800s and the early 1900s, there was a huge spiritist movement. People having seances and people believing in the spirit realm and believing that the spirit realm was the key to salvation or the key to God. That was a very popular thing in the late 1800s and the early 1900s. So some of your best fiction ideas that relate to demons or that relate to demons disguised as other beings come from those times. It's where you get your Frankenstein stories and your vampire tales, your updated tales of those things. All root from the fact that there was a great big spiritist movement in the early turn of the century and just before. Also a Himalayan creature by the same name. So, but now I was interested in the H.P. Lovecraft connection, because by looking at the H.P. Lovecraft connection, we could make some good assumptions. Because H.P. Lovecraft has brought us the Cthulhu myth. What is the Cthulhu myth? Well, it's actually a series of stories and books that he wrote, which is really a veiled reference to reptilians. Interesting. Okay, it's all going to tie in. So in the Cthulhu myth series, which is really all about the reptilian race, the form of demon. Oh yeah, I forgot to let her in. The form of demon that Halal and crew decided to come down and do their dirty work through, incarnate into. We know that in the book of Genesis you find a tale of a serpent talking to Eve. And it was walking too, obviously, because part of the curse of the Most High, the punishment to that serpent, was to cause it to crawl upon its belly. That means that beforehand it was not crawling upon its belly. Well, there's a great lie that's told by many painters and Renaissance artists, especially, who were commissioned to help deceive us all. And that great lie is exemplified in a snake dangling from a tree and in Eve holding on to an apple, neither of which can be found in the story. The word snake is not found. However, throughout the Old Testament, the word snake does appear, but it does not appear there. Why not? Because the word that we find them translating into serpent, which is an ambiguous term. What is a serpent? A dragon can be a serpent. A lizard can be a serpent. What is a serpent? Is truly, and sometimes you have to overstand too, what you'll find if you lightweight jam in research is different than what you'll find if you heavyweight jam in research. And then if you super heavyweight jam in research, you still might even blow that away. And what I mean is this, like layers of an onion. Some people do the Susie Simple thing, and they go ahead and they look at the first thing they can find. I never ever do that. And if you look at the first thing you can find, you will be led astray, because that's what that's for. It says seek. It's an action word. I mean, you're doing some work, action. Seek, and ye shall find. So in seeking, what does serpent mean? I came up with and found, not just me, Nawabians all over, Robot, found Nakash. And, you know, again, I don't affiliate myself with any particular belief system of any type. I understand that they've all been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, infiltrated, if you will, from the top down. But the people that's in it, you know, my good friend, John Cannon, John Cloud, John C., my main man, 50 grand again and again and again, is still a student in that study, and that's my buddy. And I know that when it comes down to it, we're fighting the same enemy. And we're also closer to the same belief system than a person would think, just on the outside looking in. And I do believe that he's coming closer to understanding the reality and the power of Messiah, and the fact that we've been lied to about a great many things. But he used to come to my meetings when I taught Nuwapu. But in those studies, in the study of Nuwapu, you were trained to do an exhaustive and comprehensive study of the origin of words. So I know how to look up and find words more so than the average bear. Please believe me, player. So I found that Nakash, the whisperer, is truly the origin of serpent in Genesis. Nakash means, among a couple of things, but the primary meaning is the whisperer. And ironically, the tale that we find the Migos in, the H.P. Lovecraft tale, is called Cthulhu, the whisperer in darkness. You can't make it up. And that shows you too how the Holy Spirit will lead you along a line of reasoning that no man will ever be able to co-sign with. That's where we at right now. That's the time that we're in. And please believe this will be a part of the healing series, because some people need to understand the effect that repetition and that certain catchy quote-unquote songs, certain habits that we have, you know, to walk around and say Versace, 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 that's part of your habit. So we have to break those habits, and we have to revisit and take retrospection and introspection and look at these things inside of us, and look behind us at the things that we've allowed into our systems. And like I said, I had the song on my phone until I ran out of space, and I had to begin to erase, and it was one of the first to go. But you know, because I knew that it wasn't right. But it was so catchy, so darn catchy. We have to be able to deny our flesh, even when it's fresh. That's the test. It's easy to deny something when it's greasy and sleazy. But when it look good, sound good, smell good, taste good, feel good to you, can you deny it then? That's the true test of are you being your best. I digressed. So in the video, which we cut on the video just to take a look at it, just to see if let's see if my knowledge is effective. So I had to look at the video, a little taste, and what did I find? But lots of chessboard imagery. Oh Lord, lots of chessboard imagery. And then let's go with the obvious. What is the symbol? Versace, 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 Versace. Medusa hit on me like I'm Illuminati. There was so much reference to the Illuminati, especially in the remix. Soon as Meek Mill came on, he said something about it. And you know about Little Snoop. You know, young Snoop, his protege, who ended up mysteriously killed. And there was a lot of controversy surrounding that. And it was directly related to Meek Mill's blowing up. And that happened while I was still in Atlanta. Young brother it turned me on to that. What up, though, Judo? If you happen to be checking it out, yeah, you know, he was very up on the newest and the latest things, and he had turned me on to it, and even sent me the. Oh yeah, that's right. I was back in Detroit by the time that it happened. He had even sent me the tweets that were being used to accuse Meek Mill of this. And it was things that he said that didn't quite add up, and things that people surrounding him said that pointed the finger toward Meek Mill having something to do with that young rapper being killed. And of course, we know that that young rapper had a debut song sitting on deck with him and Meek Mill and Nate Dogg on the hook. The song was sweet, but it was eerie to hear Nate Dogg on the hook of such a young man's song, and Nate Dogg been in the ground. Peace and blessings be upon him. So that, I believe, was a form of necromancy, a form of spirit worship and magic that was preparing that young man's death for Meek Mill's sacrifice. Now, of course, the Medusa symbol that you see on Versace is a very stylized and a modest Medusa. But do a little due diligence and put Medusa in the Google and compare that to the Versace symbol, and that shows you right there that for some reason they're trying to make evil fair seeming. You spend a lot of money on that Versace stuff, you know. Big and Pac helped make Versace popular to a people who can scarcely afford their light and water bill. But Medusa herself, we know from the Greek pagan myth, again, a relationship to the Greek, okay? Medusa herself was a gorgon and a titan like Prometheus. She was half and half, which is another synonym for Nephilim. We know some people like to say Nephilim was simply the fallen, and some people will say that the Nephilim also extend to the fallen's children. Well, you know, Yahshua said, I and my Father are one, and I'm in my Father, and my Father's in me. And he didn't mean it in the Crowleyan sense. So it's not a stretch to call the offspring of the Nephilim as well. Let's move on. So the Versace symbol. Why Medusa? And upon exploring that, we found that really Medusa's story is a tale of vanity and promiscuity. She seduced Poseidon, who was the god of what? Underwater, the aquatic world. Atlantis, reptilians, and snakes in her hair. This is a direct reference to reptilians again. There are many veiled references to the serpentine race. Earth, Wind, and Fire, Serpentine Fire. Now, let's get this out there too. When you see the snakes in the hair, some people have this twisted. Let's get this out. It is not the origin of locks. Why not? Well, first of all, you say dreadlocks, and that's not correct. And the wise and civilized, conscious brothers and sisters don't appreciate them being called dreads or dreadlocks. So if you call yours dreads, you're probably a little shallow, and you might have them just for the style. And like I was told before I had mine many, many moons ago, it's not about a style, and it's a commitment, a spiritual commitment that you make to return to your original state. Because if you are a person of color with tight curls in your hair, and you do not chemically alter your hair, and you do not take a tool such as a pick, like an ice pick, or a comb, and you don't separate your locks, you don't rip them apart, they will do what they're supposed to do. Where there are a lot of homeless people, some of you may already know that. You know that the homeless man did not go to the beauty salon and get his hair locked like some of you do. His locks come from, you say, well, it comes from dirtiness and unkemptness. No. I know from practical application of the theory. The way I grew mine, I didn't go to no beauty salon neither. But I washed them every day. And I was told by some Rastas, what you do is you don't separate it. You don't take a comb and separate it. You don't take a towel and separate it. You let the sun dry it. You let it air dry. And then, I put oil on it. Olive oil was my oil of choice at the time. And that kept them soft. But they lock because that's what they're designed to do. Consider the little curls. Little curls cleave together. And enough little curls cleave together and it makes a bigger curl. It's nothing but a big long curl. The same thing that you see women when they get the Shirley Temple curl, it's just not tight enough. It's loose because you want to be able to change it and do something different next week. But you consider a culture like in ancient Egypt and ancient Africa. You consider even in the Middle Eastern, because they consider Egypt to be the Middle East, and it's right there in Africa, showing you that there was once upon a time no separation between the Middle East and Africa. Let's go there just for a second. The Suez Canal was the canal that was dug in order to separate, to purposely put a separation between Africa and the Middle East. And I know I've gone over time, but that's all right, because my viewers have told me that it's all good. Keep on going. So I'm going to keep on keeping on. But, and you know, tell me otherwise. Somebody, ain't nobody said nothing otherwise, but other people who shall remain nameless. But the natural state of our hair, when you want to return to your natural state and you make that commitment, that's a spiritual commitment. You know, a lot of people choose to go the lock route, and again, it's a more of a cultural thing than anything else. It's not a demonic thing. It can be a demonic thing, just like you can have a bald head. I know a lot of bald head demonic brothers. I know a lot of bald head sisters with unbelievable hair. That's awful demonic too. And you know, they gel it up and they get it styled up, and you know, if the style of your hair makes you demonic, I don't know what to say for you. Because the style of your hair, sure enough, don't make you holy. If it go one way, it's got to go the other. It says that Samson had locks. So let's deal a little bit with Afrocentricity and the original man and the connection to the Middle East, shall we? Because I think we put Drake and Migos and them to bed a little taste, just for this aside. And I promise you, we're gonna shut this out before we get to an hour. And I said before I cut this on, I said this should be 10 minutes. I swear I did. Somebody help me. Okay. Something wrong with me this evening. Johnny Guitar Watson. Okay. So, and this just off the top of my head. Nothing written down on this. But this is just to help somebody. Somebody needs this help. So, we have to go as the Holy Spirit lead. Right? Everything ain't, I'm not the time Nazi. Everything is not Levolt. You know, stop here. Go there. You got to go with the flow. It's the Afrocentricity, you know. And that's all right, because we all got it. We all come from there. Sometimes we have a hard time going back. So let me take you back a little taste. So, Egypt And this is for somebody. Egypt is in Africa, is it not? There is a canal that connected Africa, the continent, to what they call the Middle East today. Excuse me. They dug a canal to disconnect Africa from what they call the Middle East today. And the name of that canal is the Suez Canal. These are some words that every black person, or a person who's not black and who wants to really know the truth. And I know a lot of people who are not black, but they are man enough and woman enough to accept the truth, whether or not it favors them. And I know a lot of strong brothers and sisters who are able to accept the truth and not be prideful and vain when it does. I do not ascribe to X-Clan's vainglories. Don't be vain because you're not glorious. Egypt fell, and it fell hard. It went out like a bad knee. Please believe me. Okay? And it was the land of witchcraft. And if Psalms 2:2 tells us that the kings of the earth plotted together against the Lord and against his anointed, then we know the kings of the earth in those days and times was black kings. When you see the pharaonic headdress with the Lord, every time I try to think of the name of that thing, I can't ever think of it. It's not the uchat. The uchat is the eye paint, which oh, Lord have mercy, which I was asked about today. But the uraeus, that's what it's called. The snake at the top of the pharaonic headdress, of the pharaoh's headdress, directly over his third eye. That snake is to represent that over his third eye was a reptilian force. And the reptilians came down through the kings of Africa, the kings of Egypt. And they first set up the Brotherhood of the Snake and the Illuminati. The original Illuminati was black. And that's one reason why they're going back. And they got a so-called black man in office. He's not even a black man. They got a black man in office. But it ain't the one you think it is. I'm going too far. Okay. But let's look at the connection to Egypt and Moshe, or Moses. People want to think they know so much. Let me show you something you don't know about. Moses, they say, was raised and reared in Egypt. Correct? Now, pre-Suez Canal, Egypt was connected to the Middle East. Israel, Jerusalem, Nazareth, those places, those spaces. Okay, so when the Pharaoh, who is the king of Egypt, is brought this baby by his daughter, or the daughter's handmaid, and the daughter tells the Pharaoh, who is the king of Egypt, which is in Africa, this is my baby. And the Pharaoh, who is the king of Egypt, which is in Africa, looks at the baby and says, oh, okay. He believed it. He didn't even have to please believe it. This means that that baby that he was looking at looked enough like him for him to believe it could have been his grandson. So ain't no way the baby was one shade and he was another. Let's just deal with it. So when you talk about who was the chosen people and who was the Israelites, if that's going to be an issue, I don't think it should be an issue, personally. But there are people who want to continue to make this an issue. Oh, well, let's give special props to a particular people because of their bloodline. That's Illuminati as hell. I don't care what the bloodline is. So long as we don't say it's black, we can go ahead and say, oh, well, let's big up a particular people from a particular land and blah, blah, blah. The people that live in that land today are people that migrated from the Khazars, the Ashkenazi, where you get the term Nazi from, the Ashkenazi. We're talking about Slavic people who were Judaism converts. They were converted by the original Israelites into knowing the Judaic way. So they're Jews by conversion, but they're not the Jews of the Bible that are spoken of all throughout the Old Testament. Bust that up or shut up. Stop me when I'm wrong. You know yourself that when you look at the people that they call Jews today, they look the same as white people. No disrespect, but this is absolutely necessary to the lesson. This is part of healing. Okay? You know that. You know that the ethnic differences are few as far as your view. So who is the Jew? When it said, the chosen people, but okay, Yeshua came and he straightened all of that out. What color was he? Wait a minute. It says, in every tongue that shall confess that Jesus comes in the flesh is of God. So he came in the flesh. Can you confess that? Are you of God? Then you must confess that. So he came in the flesh. What flesh? What color was the flesh? Don't flesh have a color? These things must be said if they're true, because the truth shall set you free. Now I have a great deal of beloved viewers who are not of the so-called African American Moorish ethnicity, and who cares? But it's people that need this still. I'm sorry, we have to go back down through the truth. If it make you grin, or if it make you frown, if it make you feel good, or if it make you down, we need to deal with the truth. And at some point, if the only truth you want to deal with is truth that favors you, then you have some introspection to do. That is the root of racism and prejudice, prejudging people. As long as you can say that they slaves and Roots was right and Alex Haley's boule butt was used, and I believe he was confused, so forgive me for that. He was used, and I believe they gave him a false story and everything, to not only help relate black people only to slavery, because all of us who live in North America did not come here by slave boat, but also to relate black people to Islam. Anything but relating black people to the Jew. Anything but that. We're going to jam. So, what is a Falasha Hebrew? Where is the Ark of the Covenant? They say right now in Ethiopia, which is why I wear the Ethiopian cross, not because I'm Coptic, not because I believe he died on the cross, but as a reminder to me and to others, as a conversation piece. Conversation peace, conversation shalom. Let's talk about it. That, hey, the true origins of Yeshua and the way, which was what it was called before Christianity. Somebody told me they didn't know that today, and that's okay if you don't know it. But Lord, when somebody try to show it, it's right or it's wrong. But that's a reminder to me that these things have an origin that is directly related to my ancestry. And that is a source of esteem. For me, perhaps I need that. And maybe that's a shortcoming of mine. But more importantly, if Yeshua was about the truth, and if he said, I'm the way, the truth, and the light, and the truth shall set you free, that it's not enough to simply know the truth, but the truth must also be told. So let's not walk around here with things out of order. When things are out of order and out of sorts, when the cat want to be the dog, when the man want to be the woman, when the woman want to be the man, when the recessive wants to be the dominant and the dominant wants to be the recessive, is there such a thing as dominant and recessive in nature? When do we deal with these things? And how long do we allow for our children to grow up suffering from low self-esteem, as I did, coming from a ghetto where all we knew was you came from the slave ships? It's led me to Islam and down a whole nother snake windy path other than to go directly to, hey, you originally one of God's chosen people. God's chosen people looked like you. But guess what? God sent his son that looked like you to set all of that straight. So now, Jew and Gentile, black and white, elder and youth, male and female, is supposed to be set back all right. It says in the scripture that Yah is he that sets the crooked thing straight. It's not straight, y'all, even within the Messianic community. And I've held my peace about this just to be peaceable. It says be peaceable with all men. It says agree with your adversary quickly while he is in the way. And I don't see anyone as my adversary, any human individual. I know Ephesians 6 and 12 is real. My adversary is not made of flesh. And he can jump from flesh to flesh. And let me tell you something. The biggest devils that I've ever met on the highest levels look like me. I've had very few threats in my life where someone who didn't look like me was the one causing the threat. But like Minister Farrakhan has said time and time again, and you know, the Most High can speak to a donkey. He said, the worst is first. We make the best worst. The potential. The melaninated individual has the potential. Such great potential. Oh, it's not just for dancing and singing and athletics. Bedroom action. Everybody want to admit there's something different when it comes to that. But let's not take it to the Bible. Have mercy this evening. Lord have mercy. Somebody help me. Help me this evening. Okay. Dealing with healing. Healing. There's a difference in nature, and it's a beautiful thing. When you embrace the difference, how can you embrace something if you won't touch it? Somebody heard me. I love you, Benny Blanco. You my main man, 50 grand again and again and again. And I know, let me tell you something else. I know that the times we're about to go through right now, like the sister just said on American Idol, and my man, my brother Minister Ron from the Bronx, my good friend, Big Neff, pointed out to me. She said, you know, we're when the end of the world comes up, we're coming up on a time now where you're gonna want to know some rednecks. I know how to fish. I know how to hunt. Let me tell you something. We're gonna need each other to fight this fight. As it moves from wrestling not against flesh and blood and into some flesh and blood wrestling, we're going to be hoarded into concentration camps, brothers and sisters, and that means you, and especially you, black, white, Chinese. And so if we can't embrace each other's differences, embrace mean to touch it, grab a hold of it, not to, oh no, it's not there. I hate when somebody say, I don't see race. You a liar and the truth ain't in you. You do see race, but how do you see it? You don't have to look at me and think I'm superior, but don't take a wizard on my lizards and tell me that it's raining. We're going to deal with the truth. Let's not talk about it at all, but don't feed me no lie. And I'm supposed to just sit there like Tommy Tucker, the neighborhood sucker, and suck it all up. Not me. I'm not no game goofy goober. And I hope that doesn't make you a Krabby Patty. But it's real. Blame it on my daddy. All right. One last thing on Versace. Versace. We had to look up the word. What do it mean? And we found it to be of Arabic origin. How is that so? Well, because Versace comes from southern Italy. And what do we know, wise and civilized brothers and sisters, about southern Italy? Who ran down through there? The long brown cigarette that you smoke. Why they call it the Moor. The Moors ran down through there. And so you find Versacius or Versacios to be the origin of Versace. But you know me, I broke it down syllable for syllable. And ver, Latin for to see or watch. And then we found Sachi to either be related to sacar, which meant to get or to take in Spanish, Latin root, or sache, which meant blessed or fortunate in Japanese or Asiatic cultures. Also in India, that's a common name in India. Sachi, Sacche. Then it had a biblical meaning, a price or wares, as in warehouse, things that you buy. So it had to do with either watching or seeing the price, or watching or seeing something to get, which is a hypnotic suggestion. When you see the word, please believe it. There is a thing called ancestral memory. We all have it. Black, white, Chinese, it don't matter. We all have ancestral memory. And ancestral memory gives you the ability to subconsciously know something that you don't consciously know. For instance, elephants have ancestral memory, and they understand where to find the watering holes based on their ancestors understanding where to find the watering holes. They can supernaturally, they say, because it's nature, but it's beyond. They can supernaturally, without an adult showing them, know the way. Same thing with salmon and eels. Eels are serpentine, by the way. But there is this knowledge within us. And so when they put logos on things, and even the names that they call things, that's why you should be careful what you name your children. You should be careful of the names that you allow others to call you, and nicknames too. My grandfather hated nicknames. Nick is an old English term for the devil. Look it up. Saint Nick. Did I say that? Look it up. Stop me when I'm lying. So you want to be cautious about the names of things. You don't name something for nothing. And God forbid, let me tell y'all something. If you are expecting, take time to really consider the word that you're going to call your child. That's what I said. Every name come from a word. First was words, then was names. Come on. You have so many words that are taken and put as people's names. Amir is a word. It means prince. You know what I'm talking about. Don't play silly. Even my name, Theos, is a word. It means God. It's not his name. So you have words that are taken and used as names. Some of y'all take words from the car, from your favorite designer, from your favorite cosmetic. My granny said that she had gotten my mother's middle name from, she was leafing through a book and sitting in the doctor's office waiting to deliver the baby, and was looking through a fashion book or something, and it was I believe it was a stocking company, no longer in existence, and that became her middle name. And so many of us do those frivolous things when we're naming things, or rose by any other name. So the names of things have great meaning. And you need to just take care with that. This is part of healing. So now what do you do if you've already named your child something untoward, or something that later on, now looking at it, be cautious, those of you who name your children Damon. And, no offense to anyone with that name. Again, it's not about that. If you get offended, don't be so softish. It's okay. We can deal with the truth. The truth, if the truth make you feel good all the time, guess what? Somebody lying. That ain't the truth. The truth is I should fix my tooth. Be able to do that for yourself. Be able to do that. Be able to take the truth when it's in correction to you, as well as you can for somebody else. People can always tell somebody else about themselves. Look in the mirror. Michael, start with the man in the mirror. Okay, I believe we went down through this, and it's about that time. Again, another 110. That's all right. I'm putting up big numbers on the board. I ain't mad about it. That's okay. We're going to keep putting up numbers too. As long as there's more stuff to do and more stuff to say. You don't know what tomorrow may bring. Now, I do have a lesson ready for you tomorrow that is directly in line with what we have already been establishing. Another dose 3, I like to call it. But we're still dealing with healing. So this won't be dose 3. But this is going to be dealing with healing. This is about healing. All truth will heal you. Please believe it. It's about a word in due season too. It's a time. It's a right time to say something. Do you just walk up in your friend's face and tell them, "Hey man, you need to lose some weight"? Or, "Hey, mind your breath stink." Truth in due season. I've heard it said you can say anything to a person. It's not what you say. It's how you say it. Delivery. MCs is everything. Not the words you say. Pac's words wasn't messing with Biggie's words. Oh, somebody's mad. Write them on paper. Biggie words was way more complex. His cadences, matching the words that rhyme and look like other words. He was way more into that science, but he couldn't say his words like Pac could say his. He just couldn't. Pac delivery was way more monster and more effective. It touched you more. And so it's about how you say a thing and when you say a thing, more so even than what you say. So it's not just about knowing the truth. Yes, we should know the truth and we should be set free by it. But more than anything, we should know when and how to say a thing, and then to say it in love and not totally in criticism. And I'm guilty of that. You know, my grandma who raised me showed me love in that manner. And anybody would tell you, you know, it was two of us, me and my cousin. And she came from down south where people have been somewhat color struck for some time. And he was lighter. And so she would kiss him. She would never kiss me. And it would have made me feel some type of way. But, and you know, I knew why. She had a thing about darkness. I remember her capping on my father and calling him, "You black, ugly something." And she wasn't that much lighter. But I say all that to say, everybody who knew us knew that me and my grandma was closer than me and my cousin. Than my cousin and her was. Though she would kiss him. Everybody knew that we'll fight about each other. You don't mess with my grandma, and my grandma wouldn't let you mess with me. And we was way closer. And that's the type of love that I got. So, you know, I say all that to say, you know, to y'all all, I love y'all. You know, y'all all mean a lot to me. To my main man, Shotty Piper. To Detroit's finest, True Brown. To Tony. To Brother Mike. To Brother Minister Mike in Saginaw. Turn off the TV. My main man, Crossman. Jungle Surfer. And all of the rest. My man TK in St. Louis and all of the rest. May y'all be blessed, and thank you again for putting up with your friend, because I do consider you as friends. Precious Say. Lele, you dropped some stuff on me from Compton. Boy, you dropped some stuff on me. I'm still trying to digest all of that. From Compton and Long Beach area. M. King. Excellent stuff that you gave me on Prince. And I look at this as my congregation. More than that, I see y'all as my fam. This is my fam, my YouTube family. And, you know, I'll go to bat for you like my grandma would for me. And I'll cut somebody out and I'll talk down about them until they don't know what to do. I will signify for you and I will defend you. And it's all true and it's all of the Most High. And, you know, so just forgive me for my shortcomings, still being in this flesh. So, again, in the name of Yahshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Messiah, Jesus the Nazarene, Jesus the King, I come to you representing please believe it. And thanks again for allowing me in. Until next time, be blessed and be favored. May the favor of the Creator bathe you and flavor your behavior in the name of the Savior. Shalom.